Amen.
Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk.
Mayor DePrio.
Here.
Councilmember Finley.
Here.
Councilmember Lisi.
Here.
Councilmember Cumberland.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Marr.
Here.
I'm going to move to adjust the agenda to table item under the action agenda 2023-229. Could I get a second to move as amended?
Move.
Second made by Councilman Finley. All in favor? Aye. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council will be held on Tuesday, May 16th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers located at 5000 Diamond Head Circle, City Hall. Tonight we have Mr. Trey Bobinger. Oh. And the addition was? No, these were, oh, the only thing we had was that docket for the sales tax. Okay, and also, I'm going to move again to amend the agenda to add the docket for the sales tax. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. All in favor? Aye. Next, we have Mr. Trey Bobinger with Point One Strategies, LLC, legislative activities, and this gentleman is responsible for a lot of funding that the city has received. This is our biggest year, so we're excited to hear about it. Welcome, Mr. Bobinger.
Good evening. Hello to all the council members. Thank you guys for having me. John worked me in the agenda. I appreciate that. You know, got to go through the gatekeeper there, and he was very accommodating. Told somebody, Commissioner Sean Tyndall, who runs Department of Public Safety now, actually sat in that chair, and I thought I might have to call him. I was trying to get down here on time, but it worked out, and I don't have to call him. We did have, and first of all, I want to say thanks to each one of you for the opportunity to advocate on behalf of the city of Diamond Head, as well as our residents and citizens for the city of Diamond Head. At the state capitol, it's just kind of a smaller version of Congress. If you're not in there asking and talking and educating legislators, somebody else is. You follow me? So it's kind of like having a seat at the table. So I think it's very important to have that presence, and I very much appreciate that opportunity to represent you guys. Having said that, it makes it a little easier, Mayor, to say that when we had such a good year, successful year. And when I say we had a successful year, I certainly want to give credit to Representative Jay McKnight and Senator Philip Moran, who really are always accessible. If I call or see them in the hall, I'm there every single day during the session. And those guys are accessible. We're communicating about whether it's money issues or general law bills that may either favorably, Mr. Clark, or adversely impact municipalities. So with that being said, I won't bore you, but I do think it's important to reiterate how well the city did, which is good, I mean, not just for the city, but for the individual taxpayers and residents of Diamond Head. Number one, we obtained $400,000 in Tidelands funding. Well, $300,000, as you know, I think by now, is dredging for the Noma Drive boat ramp access, and the other $100,000, that's the nature trail and nature education center planning phase. So that's the $400,000 there. So that's helpful. The Senate Bill 3047 is a very big win for us. It's continued funding of our commercial center here, you know, for our business community. You know, we have all these wonderful rooftops and more homes being constructed, but it's great to see the businesses developing to serve the residents of Diamond Head. And we were awarded Diamond Head was $2 million. This is from the Gulf Coast Recovery Restoration Funds. And we're very pleased with that. I think we got that same amount last year for that pot of money. So, you know, we're stacking funding to try to help fully develop that, which is good for the long-term growth of the city. And, you know, there again, finding alternative revenue streams. If you grow your commercial base, you grow your sales tax diversion. So therefore, you're not sitting up here going, we got to raise millage down the road or something. Nobody wants to do that. And certainly the residents don't want to see that. But sales tax is a great way. If you grow your business base, that's what you've got. The other thing I wanted to tell you was Go Mesa. This is money, and I wanted to give a special thanks to Governor Tate Reeves for helping the city with this $2 million. It's right at slightly 1.9 and some change from the Go Mesa funds. And this goes toward our drainage projects, flooding and drainage, which I know are a huge issue, looking at some of the social media. And I know you guys deal with it from residents standing at this podium, your phones ring, your text messages. So I know this council is working hard to try and address drainage issues for the residents. And I just want to know, you know, this additional $2 million will help. We also got an additional $495,000, John, which is what they call marsh prevention erosion. So that kind of ties in with your flooding and your drainage issues. So if you add all that up, we're bumping $5 million. So that's, I think, a good year for us. I was trying to just add in my head, and John, it might be off just a little, but I think the last 4 years, we're probably around $15 million, probably close to it, approximately, in funding we've obtained. So I'm very pleased with that. And again, I think that's good for the city. Just real quickly, I wanted to mention there's some other things. For instance, you know, there's bills that come up that would be adverse to municipal governments. There was one bill in particular that came up that I thought, you know, you kind of try to look ahead, not just what's in front of you, but what is the practical impact if this becomes law. There was one bill in particular that I think could have been detrimental to the city if it had not been caught and addressed, and fortunately that was done. But there's many examples, other examples of bills that could be bad for municipalities. On the positive note, we worked on, and Diamond Head certainly supported this, along with the Municipal League, Mississippi Municipal League. We changed our zoning violation statute. Derek, I don't know if you've looked at that, but it used to be to enforce a zoning violation, it was a criminal offense, which means you have to have a law enforcement officer go out and serve a notice, and it just seemed odd to me that a zoning violation would be a criminal offense, like a misdemeanor, like a speeding ticket or something like that. So we got it where we didn't take the criminal aspect away, but we said it could be criminal, civil, or administrative, to give that flexibility, because a lot of times it's not in the nature, I think our attorneys would agree, of a true crime. It's a violation of your zoning ordinance structure that's adopted by this council, and of course your legal counsel's working with enforcement, code enforcement, to get those properties cleaned up or in compliance. So I think that's really good. You don't have to have a uniformed officer. You can have someone with the city. We're not talking about criminal, we're talking about civil. I think that's good for the city. This year, I'm also happy to report that homestead reimbursement, everybody, if you have a homestead, you can go to the tax collector's office and apply for an exemption of a certain amount. Well, the state reimburses, or at least they're supposed to reimburse local governments, cities, counties, school districts for that money. Historically, they've underfunded it, but I'm very pleased to say that this last, the last two sessions, that has been fully funded. It's at $92 million this year. That's going back to cities, counties, and school districts across the state of Mississippi. And I think it's an increase of $1.4 million from what was received last session. So I think that's good. I also be remiss if I didn't mention Lieutenant Governor Hoseman he spoke out on that issue, that he wanted to see these local government entities fully reimbursed for that. So I think that's a good thing. ARPA funding, that's one of our favorite words, or acronyms, I guess. There was an additional, it was passed by the legislature and the governor signed it, $41 million going, of course, statewide to cities and counties that did not get fully funded for their ARPA projects in round one. There's going to be this is the second round. There was some folks that didn't get all their money that had eligible projects that qualified for the money. So we got 41 million. I say we, but all the eligible cities and counties in the state. So we thought that was very good. According to the Lieutenant Governor, Governor Hoseman says they have really looked at these numbers, and this should fully fund all these projects statewide. This was making up that gap. I saw him at the Ole Miss LSU baseball game. He said, well, I guessed it. We thought about $450 million that was passed the prior session. He said, I only missed it by 41 million. I said, okay, Governor, congratulations on that. But the other bill that can impact us, maybe less so here, but it's good for local governments, the Emergency Road and Bridge Fund. This is another commitment that the legislature's made that's really good for bridge repair and some road work as well. I know last session the Municipal League worked, and I was involved in that, getting language that said a certain percentage of that money would go to municipalities, because historically, nothing negative, most of that money, when you say bridge, John, it's going to the counties, but we had language in the prior session that says the cities, municipalities are eligible to get a certain portion of that $100 million. So I thought that was very important. Do you guys have I guess I should direct this to legal counsel. Do y'all have a pre-disaster contract in place? Okay. There was a bill passed, Senate Bill 2538, that you're probably familiar with. The Mississippi Association of Supervisors initially spearheaded this. We kind of joined in with them, as well as the Mississippi Municipal League, in loosening that, where you can, if you so decide, this council, you can go in with, say, Hancock County, or with Bay St. Louis, or in other words, it allows multi-jurisdictional contracts, pre-disaster contracts. I think the thinking behind that, Derek, was there might be a potential cost benefit, but there again, each deliberative body, such as City of Diamond Head, has to make that call, whether that makes sense. But it does give us that flexibility to do that. Real quick, this didn't really get legs this year, but we need to be vigilant. I will be vigilant on behalf of Diamond Head, and I know at the state level there'll be others. You've heard discussions about reduction of sales tax on groceries, and believe you me, I understand, especially if I go to the grocery store these days. It would be nice to pay less sales tax. But one thing we've got to be mindful of, that is a huge revenue stream for municipalities, not just Diamond Head, the basically 300 municipalities in the state of Mississippi. We're certainly open to that, but whatever happens, we just want to make sure that the municipality's made whole. You follow me, John? We don't have an empty spot in your revenue, and you've got to make it up through property taxes or some other method. And I will say, the speaker, the lieutenant governor, they've been very supportive, saying if we move on that in the future, that we're going to have a funding mechanism that will make and keep the cities whole. And that's our thing. It's not being opposed to a tax reduction. It's more about just trying to keep your revenue steady and not have to offset it on your residents in some other way. In other words, it's kind of, I give it to you here, but I take it away from you over here. So we want to avoid that. So those are some of the issues that came about this session. There are many, many others. I'm sure you saw in the press there was a lot of activity regarding the city of Jackson, and that kind of had a life of its own in the legislative session. A lot of those dealt with water issues and some water and sewer. I know here that's operated by a different entity, but for a lot of municipalities, some of those bills were written so broadly that they were kind of infringing or coming over into some of the other municipalities. But most of that either went away or got amended. But that was a lot of energy around that impacted municipalities. So there was a lot of activity around that as well. And of course, y'all all heard about the Capital District Bill, Improvement District. That was a controversial bill, but it finally made its way through and was signed into law by the governor. So are there any questions from any of the council members?
Thanks for all you do, Trey.
Thank you very much. And I think all of you, or most of you, have my cell number. If you don't, I will certainly share it with you. I'm always accessible, and anything that you'd like to talk about, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
We
much.
just want to thank you for all you've done, and like Trey said, over the past 4 years, we're 15 million strong. This year, 5 million, the most Diamond Head has ever received. We greatly appreciate your work in Jackson,
Thank you, Mayor.
tremendously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City managers report? Oh,
thank-
wait, before I do that, excuse me one moment. We have 2 announcements. First, I want to turn over to Councilman Marr. He wants to mention about the open mic and the success of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that we did have our first open mic music on the town green last Saturday. Even though it looked like rain was coming, the rain held off, and we had a crowd of somewhere around 30 to 40 people all told coming, and the music was just fantastic. Everybody I asked and talked to, which was just about everybody there, all said that it was enjoyable and they would love to have it more often. So it was a great success, and I want to give a shout out to our MC, whose name is just flashing out of my thing. It's Wes Sanderford, who volunteered to do this for the first few months with no pay or anything, and he's in demand as a band. And I just think whenever we need a band, we should consider his band in the future.
Thank you, Councilman Marr. And it looked like a great turnout from your
It was.
Facebook photos. Excellent. We wanted to mention also that Friday night on the town green here at 7 p.m. will be a prayer service for the 2 students that recently lost their lives, for their families and their friends to come together in prayer. So that'll be out here on the town green, 7 p.m. Friday night, May 5th. City managers report?
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Starting off with Lily Pond and the I-10 pond, the contractors have completed dredging on Lily Pond and have moved over to the I-10 pond and started on that one, I want to say either Monday or Friday of last week even. They're working on dredging that one out and actually starting to haul out some of that mud as well, because laydown area is not quite as big as it was on Lily Pond, but they're going to start working on that one and try to get that cleaned out soon. The contract end date on that one is July 17th of '23. The Park 10 Road, the city's still finalizing easements on that, and as well as getting permits from MDEQ. Once everything's in order and we have everything received, we'll have the engineer advertise that project. The Phase 4 project, paving project, is still demobilized currently as we are waiting on the area around Bayou Circle to be complete and available for paving. That's a little bit of water and sewer, but also the culverts that we're putting in underneath that road to keep the water off the road. Current project end date on that one is June 30th. Diamond Head Drive paving, I met with the engineering firm, Orion Planning, and the city engineer, and we discussed the current drawings, which were plus or minus 50%. The engineer plans on having 90% drawings probably in the next 2 weeks to us to take another review over, and then 100% drawings here very soon thereafter. The hazard mitigation updates, the outdoor emergency sirens, FEMA is currently asking for additional information that we're collecting to submit. We have scheduled a meeting with them in Rostan tomorrow to discuss the items that they need. Once we can get all that to FEMA, they'll review and hopefully get back to us, either with more information that they're requesting or hopefully a decision one way or the other. The generator and light towers, FEMA also requested additional information on that project that we sent to them on March the 24th. Sorry, March the 24th. So we're pending additional FEMA review on that one to see if that will get approved for funding as well through FEMA. The residential acquisition program, 5 properties have been submitted by MEMA to FEMA for review. FEMA is requesting appraisals on those properties, which we're working on getting, contacted the homeowners and working on those appraisals now. Once completed, we'll submit those to FEMA for them to review and hopefully come back with an answer. The other 10 properties that were also submitted in that is being held by MEMA at this time, pending additional funding from MEMA to cover that cost. So those are on hold at this time. Coon Branch, Cola, and Lot 7 and 8 drainage projects were given to the engineer a few weeks ago. Met with him Friday. We discussed the overall projects and how what his plans are on working on the water out of those areas and keeping those places dry. So should get some drawings back from him soon that we can look over and get back with you guys on. Go Mesa funds are being used to pay for this project. As Trey said, and as well as Jay and Philip the other week, the monies that we received from Go Mesa as well as ARPA funds that we should be receiving will hopefully pay for 15 additional drainage projects throughout the city. I'm currently just waiting on grant agreements from all that, so once I can get those and get them to you guys for approval, we'll get engineers on those projects and get started on those drainage projects as well. On your agenda, you have all the subdivision, re-subdivision items on there. Those are being bought by the state from Purcell. Carl Joff and the city attorney are both here tonight. If you have any questions for them to ask, you can ask them and get any information that you may need. Do we want to talk about Kiki? We can take them all at one time instead of, even though they're action items, instead of having to do them one individually. No. Okay. All right, and that's it for me.
Any questions for the city manager to my left?
Nothing new on the Ramada.
Well, it's funny you should ask. That's okay. No problem. I actually went over to the Ramada and took a walk around. I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest with you, at how it looks. Yeah, I know. They have really done a lot of work over there. I would encourage each of you to go take a walk over there and knock on the door and ask to take a look around. The general community area and kind of around the pool is kind of, I guess, their storage area where they're working out of. So that looks terrible. But other than that, the rooms look nice. They're clean. The bathrooms and everything in them look great. The lobby is really in great shape. So, I mean, you can still see some of the old bones of the building, but, you know, that is what it is. But I was quite surprised. And they're working on right now the fire alarm system and getting that installed. They've added a security system with like 70 plus cameras all around the building, new telephone system, new internet system, everything else. Only thing is left is a fire sprinkler system, so that's where we are. They don't have that at this time, no.
But they gotta have it, right?
That is what I've been told as well, is that is a requirement to get it back up to current code.
Mr. Jones, did you want to add something?
I just want to remark about the
Mhm.
fire alarm system. At the end of last week, we did issue that permit
Right.
for a complete fire alarm system. So for every area, it will be have an alarm system.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, that's a good update. There's some positive, yes.
Like I said, I'd encourage all of you to go take a walk over there and take a look at it one day soon.
Thank you. Any questions to my right? Okay, we're gonna start at the far left and we're gonna work this way.
All right.
Councilman Finley,
I'm good.
Council Member Lisi?
Thank you. Okay, John, I've had several people in my ward reach out to me with concern about the stop signs being covered in a recent traffic study. So can you address that and just kind of let us know, have decisions been made yet? What's the status on that?
No decisions have been made. It was kind of the last thing we talked about when we discussed the traffic study that we had done, is that Colo, I think it is or whatever that street is, and Kapalama failed, but it barely failed at needing a stop sign. And the discussion was, is it because there's 7 stop signs on that road already that maybe people just aren't going in that direction? Plus, you guys had a lot of questions about what happened to some of that traffic. It seemed like there was a lot, and then all of a sudden there's not as much, but there's really nowhere for those people to turn off. So there was some confusion, a little bit of concern about exactly how those numbers came out. So the idea with the city engineer was, let's cover the stop signs that are on that road. Let's do another count on Kapalama and see if it does actually warrant a stop sign there on that street. And then we can get new count numbers and we'll know where we are. Once we do that, then we'll have to look at the stop signs themselves, which, according to the report, none of them are qualify for a need for a four-way stop.
Okay, however, we are still able as a council to decide to keep them,
Certainly.
if we decide.
Certainly.
Okay, because I know that I've gotten multiple phone calls from residents that are really concerned.
Right.
People who live at those corners have children that play outside. It's, you know, whatever the report says, they
Right.
want to keep their stop signs, and so I don't want
Understand.
us to be bound automatically by.
Right. And then that was why, instead of us taking them down and doing all that, which someone called and suggested, we just simply covered them
Right,
so
and-
that people would be able to continue on through. After we've done our study and everything's taken care of, we can just take the bags off and continue
Okay.
on as is.
Good.
Unless you guys want to take some of them down permanently.
Right.
at that point.
Because y'all know how the rumor mill goes, and I've heard that, you know, the city engineers told people, oh, well, the council already decided to take your stop signs down, which is not true. And then also that Covington Engineering is telling people that the stop signs are coming down, and that's not true either. So just for the record, I just wanted to
Right.
clear that up and let people know that no decisions have been made, and you know, that they're not on their way out necessarily. And we will certainly talk about it and consider, you know, the safety of those people, because there are so many children on those roads, and it's just scary.
And I have, feeding
Yeah.
Councilwoman Lisi, I have received numerous complaints about removing them because the residents that live on the street said they made a tremendous improvement. But another thing that we haven't taken into account, and I want you all, city, you know, the engineer, city manager to look at, when MDOT starts, and they should be advertising to bid in June, so work should begin in September, COLA is going to be packed full of people because nobody's going to want to come through the front. So at that point, if you can leave those stop signs up till we get through construction of exit 16, it is going to be a serious,
I agree.
Traffic.
That's a very good point.
well,
and
thank you.
good.
That's all I could think about was
Yeah.
not now, please, because everybody's going to be using the back end. And we want people to have a way to get in. It's going to be a nightmare. I keep saying this every meeting. It's going to be a horrible nightmare. It's going to be tore up. At the end, we've got a $7 million fabulous project. We just have to get through it. So we're going to be using Kapalama, and we're going to be coming up COLA, because that's just how we are.
Certainly.
And cutting through Anahula. We all do it.
while we're on the stop signs, though, I just want to bring up, the federal government did a study on using stop signs to reduce speeders and found out that it was not the answer to the problem, that it actually encouraged more people to not use stop signs at all and to go through them. And so the real thing is, if you want to slow down speeders, is not speed bumps, but speed tables. Those are the things that are like 6 feet long that you go up and over, that makes them slow down enough that they won't be just going through. So where there are unnecessary stop signs, people get used to it, that go on a regular route and they don't stop at all then, because they say, oh, there's never no traffic here. And that's more of a hazard than having a stop sign. I think wherever there's stop signs, if they're worrying about speed, we should investigate with the city engineer about if a speed table should be put in there. So that's just my thought.
And that may well be a better
Right.
answer, but I just wanted people to know that the council is not, we care that people are driving too quick, too
Certainly.
fast, and we want them to slow down, and we're not gonna just ignore
Certainly.
that. Okay, thank you. Okay, also, and I bet this might be a question for Ben Benetti. Is there an update on the pond on Cardinal Hole number 4? The cleanup dredging, what's the status of that? I was asked, and I thought, I
go
don't know
first.
the update.
That's all right. That is one of our projects that hopefully just got funded, and as
Okay.
soon as we get grant agreements in place, then that will be issued to the engineer for them to start their design and
Okay.
rework.
Okay, excellent. And then, you and I talked about this once, because I asked you, as an aside, but in front of everybody, just because I think people will be interested to know the sound barrier that MDOT is putting up. Can you just for a minute talk about what they're planning to do in their right-of-way behind it, as far as, a walking, is it a
walking
walking
trail.
trail?
Yep,
Uh,
walking
Yes,
trail.
they're putting up, as part of the 6 laning of I-10 from Wolf River, roughly Harrison County, over to Diamond Head. There's 6 laning the interstate, but from, and I want to say it's about 500 feet before you get to the Diamond Head city line in Harrison County, all the way up to, I guess, roughly around Shepherd Square, because
Okay.
not quite all the way up to the Waffle House. They are building a sound wall that will go along that interstate. Behind the sound wall, still within the MDOT right-of-way, we are getting, they're going to actually build us a walking trail multimodal path
Okay.
back there. No motorized vehicles, but you'll be able to walk, bike, jog, whatever, behind that wall. So be a nice little additional
Yeah.
feature for the city to have back there. And it'll
And
go.
another access
It's actually going to
point,
connect
yeah.
all the way up to the Waffle House, to the multimodal path that will be added in with
Nice.
the roundabouts. So it will go all the way past. So it will go extend past the wall, but that's okay.
Okay.
But then it'll go down to the other end, and it'll just have a big cul-de-sac, I guess, kind of turnaround at the other end at this time.
But it'll be
And-
safe for people to.
Certainly, yeah, you'll be behind a
bike.
wall. We shouldn't have any issues back there.
Nice.
And there'll be, we're looking at 2, maybe 3 connections coming off of that in various spots within the city limits so that we can connect to it.
Okay, that's
That
excellent.
was part of the master gateway plan for
Mhm.
adding trails, and they implemented it in their project, which we're very thankful for that.
Yes. Okay, and then I had a couple more, I'm sorry. Commercial landscaping in the commercial area is really not looking good. Grass is overgrown, there are weeds, and I traveled last week elsewhere, and every time I do that, I look at what is going on in other cities, and, I look at CVS, not necessarily CVS, but like all commercial businesses that are here and also other places, and like, why?
Right.
Why can't they cut their grass here? They cut their grass there. So
Right.
what can we do to,
Well, that's unfortunately still a code enforcement issue that we're just
Okay.
working on. Actually spoke finally with 2 of our police officers, and they, if everything works out, we'll have them start on Monday.
Okay.
And start providing us some code enforcement until we can find somebody permanently who's interested in doing the job.
yeah, because that would be nice
Yes.
to have an improvement kind of across the board. And then we touched on this before, but I wasn't sure like where it stood or what happened with it. The rear of homes. When we talked about the facades, being different, we didn't address the way they look from the back. And we are stuck right now with a bunch of new homes that look identical from
Right.
the rear. So is that something that Orion is going to add to their new recommendations for us, or what are we going to do about that?
I can work with them and see if they can make those recommendations as additions to the our current subdivision ordinances.
Because, we're unique in that sometimes, the backs of our homes here get as much traffic as the front, because
Right.
we're on, if you're on a golf course, you have a lot of people right in your backyard, and if you've got a clump of houses that all look the same, it's not good. So thank you for that, and I think that is all I had. I appreciate it.
Councilman Cumberland?
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate this week to be in a leadership class. You were part of it, got to listen to the mayor speak.
That was a fun
Yeah,
time.
that was great. And after we left here, we went to the library, and the director there, John, some of you guys know him, lives here in Diamond Head. I mean, great presentation. And I didn't want to come to you and say, John, can you get him over here? I asked him if he'd be interested, and he said he would. But I wanted to do it in front of the council because I know we have limited time. But what they have over there is pretty amazing. I don't think he said book one time in a presentation about the library.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. So if he could come speak, I think that would be a really good thing to add to our agenda.
Okay.
sometime
I'll
in the near
contact him and see if we
future.
can get.
If you could reach out
Sure.
to him, I think he would like that. Is there anything new going on with Makiki? Or are we still?
I sort of asked that question before I finished my report. Go ahead.
Hear me? We are working, and John and I and Ben actually have put in a good bit of time this week working on Makiki and the response to the bond surety company. And hopefully, we are going to have some movement in a direction in the next 30 days.
Okay.
Yes, and we have already, has the project started, the bottom to top?
Yeah, currently, we just hired bottom to top, I think you guys approved it at the last meeting, to install the water line and remove the debris and do some other cleanup around the area. I think they're waiting on the materials to come in Friday, for the pipe and everything that they need for the water line. And then they'll probably start, I would think Monday, if everything comes in, probably Monday of next week to actually do all that. Because it probably is not gonna take them a couple of days to get all that in and
Okay.
taken care of.
All right. A little smaller scale, but there's a tractor and I don't know if it's some type of dump trailer or something that's been on Calipacona for quite some time. I've gotten a few, you know about it?
Yes, I
I've
do.
gotten a few comments on it. We've reached out to, I know something's going on with it. Do you have an update with that as to where we are?
Right, we have written a letter to the owner of the property, or of the equipment, and to give them 7 days to come and move it off the property and clean it up. So we'll just have to wait for that process to run through, and then we'll move forward if they fail to do it after that. We'll hire a dump truck, or I guess whatever, to come and.
Yeah, it looks like
tow
it's gonna
truck to come
take a
and it
big
all.
piece of equipment to
Yeah,
get that
so
thing out of
we'll
there.
get a tow truck to come take it all off and charge the owner up for it.
Do you know, when was the letter sent?
I want to say Monday.
Okay. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Feeding off your comment on the library,
Mm-hmm.
so the Diamond Head Senior Village is at the library, and we haven't even looked at the books. We haven't even made it, and we're every Tuesday, Thursday, because there is so much there. They have a Glowforge printer that you can print on wood, MDF. Yes, I mean, well, they generally come every budget time, because we do give
Yeah.
budget, so usually the library will come during the budget to talk about what the services they offer. But the traffic going in and out, we see a lot of residents utilizing the library. The 3D printer, the Glowforge printer, engraver, you can engrave anything.
That's
So
neat.
the library is, you're
It's a
right.
Great resource. I
Online
had no idea.
services, books, just tons of stuff. So I have a few questions. On the Go Mesa funding that we did receive and the ARPA funds and all the drainage projects, is Kaliki, Amoka, and Diamond Head North included in that? Because this is a major area that I keep telling about and I keep putting on the agenda. This is Amoka, Kaliki, Diamond Head North, Iki.
Kaliki is one of the projects we have.
That's the Kaliki, Amoka,
I want to say it goes through all of that.
Diamond Head North. Is that a yes and a yeah? Please make sure that one is, because that's the one that if water's gonna get in the house, it's that project right there, because it's already over the street. Okay. The Lily Pond, I saw the contractor demobilized from the Lily Pond, but yet there's about 5 feet of fill, and especially on the north side. And the only reason I'm asking about this is we're getting into hurricane season. And I've lived in the area since '93, and I know every street and when it's gonna flood. So the things that we have, need to be addressed sooner than later. Who is moving all the dirt that's mound up like 5 feet?
Everything that's left now will be moved by the city.
All that'll be moved? Do we know when?
It'll be as he can do it. He's gonna do a little bit right now on the I-10 pond to get that, so that he has more room to dredge out, before he starts moving the rest of his dirt, or the rest of the spoils out. But then he'll be working on that one just continuously.
And so the residents know all the dirt around the Lily Pond is out there drying out, and then it's all gonna be hauled off, and we're gonna put down some topsoil and seed it.
Yes, that is correct. As well as probably plant some trees in it as well, back so that
It needs some
replant it.
trees. Trees would be wonderful. Okay. There's no room, but that would be good.
I don't know about that.
No,
could be a
it
park
tends
lot.
to get out the banks every now and then. Okay, because the residents were worried about the dirt left up there. Emergency work on McKeekee's gonna be done next week, is that correct?
That would be my guess, is, like I said, he's waiting on the materials, which he told me would be here Friday for the pipe and the steel casing. And so my guess would be that we come out Monday and start doing that, and take care of it's just removing the vegetation, installing that water line, and then doing some dressing up around the area so that it looks better, haul all that dirt in the middle of the road off. And then we still have to deal with the actual road and the conflict box and junction box. So that's next.
Because they are protruding a little bit out of the
A little bit.
roadway. Okay, moving on to the HMGP that we discussed, which is hazard mitigation grant funding, which MEMA allocates funding to, and generally is I have found it easy, I've worked on several, but sometimes it's not, to be able to get the funding. The siren, I know we've been working on, for 2 years. At this point, you have a meeting next week?
I have a meeting with Rostan tomorrow we're gonna work on the last of whatever the FEMA, RFI is, their request for information. So, yes, I agree with you, those things are usually quote-unquote easier to get. I don't know what's happened, it's just turned into this, they constantly are asking for something, and then they take forever at getting back to us, and then they ask for something else. It's like,
And when
okay.
you get to that point where it's taken that much time, you've got a very good resource sitting right there. Trey and your legislators, if you get them in a meeting and sit down, discuss it, whether it be on the phone, call in your resources to assist, to help
Right.
things move forward. Because that has taken a while. On the agenda tonight is the standard drawings, and I realize it's a consent agenda item and we can't talk about it. I had sent an email asking about the bidding of the standard drawings, and I'm all over the standard drawings. I mentioned at the last meeting, we should have long had standard drawings. This will make it where whenever we go to do a project, we can give the engineers the standard drawings. They know what we expect. We know what we expect the contractor to be doing. We see the standard drawings. The bidding and advertising, are we ready for that at this point, or can we hold off on that phase and just get the standard drawings prepared?
No, the project or the work assignment you have on the agenda is for the engineer to create those drawings, as well as standardized pipe sizes of everything we need. And then we will bid that whole thing out as a package and have someone to, say, to do this standard drawing, it'll be $10,000. To provide this pipe, it'll be $5 or whatever it is. And that's what the bidding and the bid advertising is for. So
And-
no,
and-
we're nowhere near ready for that. We haven't even started the project yet.
No, so you're ways away on that. And I guess my concern is, we see with the cost of materials, the current economy, 1 week they're up and 1 week they're
Right.
down. And when we advertise, we need to talk about that a little further before we
Well,
advertise.
well, that's the point, is that we're gonna
Mhm.
make the contractor give us a set price for the year.
But if we bid at the time that they're at the highest,
I got you.
that's my deepest concern. Or the contractor's gonna feel that he has to make it the highest because he knows that the prices in the current economy is driving materials up so high. I just want further discussion on that. I'm willing to move forward tonight with that because I feel it's something we need to do, but the timing on it is gonna be critical.
Right.
Or else it's gonna defeat the whole purpose
Right.
of what we're
Well,
doing.
it'll come back to you for approval for, to advertise.
Okay,
This is just starting the work assignment.
all right, I just had a concern on that. All right, is there any other questions for the city manager?
I had a customer, well, a resident, I should say, talk to me today about what is the possibility of putting a frontage road, from the Downhead exit, maybe down to Kildare exit, or that way, maybe, even help with some of the traffic, coming in. I said, we can try to bring it up and talk about it one day. Anyway,
Gotcha.
want to throw that out there.
Certainly.
I like a great idea.
It's been discussed many times. We just need to find the money. All right.
May I ask one more
Oh,
thing? I'm so sorry,
definitely.
I forgot something. John and Derek, the yellow house at the water tower, is it still for sale? Do y'all know what the status of that is?
Okay. The last I spoke with the owner of the property is, he's trying to, acquire new funding so that he can finish the house and then move forward, or sell it as is and have somebody else finish it.
Is
So,
there some kind of timeline for a house sitting vacant like that? Can it just sit indefinitely, Derek?
Right now, he's got he's in a financial bind. I don't want to get into too much
No,
details where
that's
he's
okay. I
at,
just-
but he's looking for someone to cut that brick wall out so that he can get the garage finished. So we've been talking with him. Obviously the building officials have been talking with him. This one's been a mess from the start.
Oh, I know.
But we're making him comply with, the ordinances,
Well, I think
and that's
now that
what's.
the lot next door there's something happening there, I think people were kind of hopeful, oh, maybe
Sure.
that will become part of it, and it'll come in from that side, and, it'll get fixed that way, and now, obviously, there's, I think, a house going up right next door, so that's off the table. But I just wondered if there were some kind of time limit on a property that's halfway built
He's gonna have
and
to
vacant.
follow the rules as he goes forward, and that's what kind of set him back a little bit, not following the rules. And so, that's what put him in this bind a little bit. So we'll
That's
keep
where we are.
following up with him, but the building department is on it.
Okay,
So.
thank you for the update.
And now that we discussed the yellow house, it brings up the other topic. So we had 2 new permits pulled for Bowview subdivision and 2 homes being built. Where are we with the Bowview drainage? Because this needs to be addressed sooner than later now.
The engineer gave me the 100% drawings, which the city engineer reviewed and had comments on. I gave that back to him. When we met Monday, he told me maybe next week, which would have been starting today, or yesterday, or the following week, next week. He'll work on those and get his comments back to me, or his updated drawings with comments back to us.
So we should see that on the next agenda.
Right. Again, it's part of this whole other funding. So if and when we get these grant agreements and get his final comments back, we'll be able to move forward on that.
So we're
project.
holding that with the Go Mesa funding,
That's
because this was
Well,
supposed
not
to.
Go Mesa, this is it's with ARPA funds.
ARPA funds. This was supposed to be one Public Works could even do, was digging a ditch. Has he added a lot more
That may
work?
be, but yeah, digital is, the engineering firm there's a lot more to it now, with a lot of rock base and so forth in the ditch to help for erosion control.
Okay.
Do we have any concerns about has been allocated from the county?
Do I have any concerns about that?
If we're gonna get it?
I always have concerns if we don't have it, but no, I don't have any real concerns about that. I feel
Okay.
like that's, it was allocated and is for the city to use.
Good.
All right, moving along. Public comments. We have a public comment, Mr. Durrell, 8912 Hannah Lee Place.
I understand that Todd's gonna come out tomorrow. And he's gonna shoot the elevation, and I'm gonna shoot the elevation. And we can get this project going. I thought the city was intention was to stop the erosion and corrosion and drainage. They caught a problem on my place. The drainage is coming to my house. Now, what taking so long? I was there 2 weeks ago. John told me, got pipe. Fortunately, the guy that did the drawing on facade and Pachana is in the audience today. We'll get with him. If he can't come to, Todd and I can't come to agreement tomorrow, it's an easy fix. Tell you, easy fix. An hour at the most. If he can't come to an agreement tomorrow, we'll use his drawing, and he's gonna have a hell of a time making that slope and a turn. Now, what took so long? Anybody can tell me? 2 years. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing, huh?
Well, I think there was more than one plan, right? Was there some kind of confusion about what, I mean, I'm asking, yes?
There was one final plan stamped, but I think the confusion came in is, I don't know. But I've been out there when it rains, I've seen it, I've followed it. But now we're getting, I think he had to order the box, order the pipe. Did that, and that all came, and on their defense, it takes time when you order stuff to get it in. So it's in now, and Ty said he's coming out tomorrow, and it'll be finished by Friday.
Well,
That's the plan.
I just want to trust the council. It's on tape. So, you know, if they're any concerned about it, but nobody's come out to look except you, Mayor, and Joy came one time. Nobody's come out there to look. Thank you.
We'll be out Friday to see the finished product.
And-
It'll be our
and
golf cart ride.
And I think that there's rain this weekend, right?
Huh?
I think there's rain in the forecast, in the next few, yeah, will you come back after, like, to our next meeting and let us know if you're seeing an improvement?
Certainly will.
Okay, I
Certainly will.
hope you have good news for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And he hasn't missed a meeting in how many years? Many years. I can vouch since 2016. I've seen you sit here at every meeting. Okay. Well, you had a good engineer that did the plan, so. It was a very good plan. We just need to finish the plan because it wasn't completed. And now Ty is going to finish it. All right, moving along. A motion to approve the April 18th, 2023 regularly scheduled meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilwoman Lisi. Could I get a second? Second made by Councilman Clark. All in favor? Aye. Motion to adopt Resolution 2023-019, establishing compensation for certain positions for the city of Diamond Head. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Cumberland. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? I have a few discussion items. First, we have on the agenda tonight the FY 2024 budget. And we know at that point, generally, and it's been pretty much typical since I've sat here since 2016, that employees all get a 2% increase or something similar. They've always gotten an increase in pay, and we're very close to the budget. How many employees are getting a raise on this particular, because I couldn't tell, on this, so I'm assuming this is Public Works employees?
Yes, this is for two employees.
Two employees,
Right.
two positions.
That's correct.
So will these, and I'm gonna have to say Public Works, and I say it every time I set up here, we have got a fabulous Public Works Department in Diamond Head, and they do an outstanding job, and I can't commend them enough. If anybody sees the work they do, and I know the residents see it, we greatly appreciate it. So it's not about the work. I think they all deserve a raise, which brings me to my next question. They all deserve a raise. I mean, they've done a tremendous job. They're out there working hard. So the reason we're only doing 2 is,
One is being moved from Public Works Class 1, General Employee 1 to 2, Heavy Equipment Operator, as that person does more than just simple grass cutting and that kind of thing. And since we had one leave, the position was open, so we're moving that person to that position. The other one was hired, same thing, as a low, as a simple grass cutter, but as a heavy equipment operator. So we're moving him off the general scale onto the heavy equipment operator scale.
okay. And I've known in the
We skipped
past,
to the resolution 3, we didn't vote actually on 2 yet.
it's tabled.
Oh, I thought we just pulled it off of that.
Oh, no, it's still laying on the table. We're not ready to take it off. We don't have the information. So getting back to that, I know we've done studies on positions and how much, employees should be paid. Looking at, and I didn't realize, what we are paying Public Works. When we're working on the budget, can we look across the coast and see, because I don't know how people make it with this pay. It's very,
Yeah, we've done that in the past, and we're actually very competitive still.
are we
We
competitive
are,
still
yes.
with this? Okay. Yes,
Uh-huh.
okay. Well, let's,
But we will look as far as for
Please
24
do.
budget
Mhm.
goes, yes.
So if we're competitive, we still feel we need to do this. I'm just confirming before we do it.
Well, these 2 are being moved to a higher scale, that's it. So that kind of is the reason why their increase is happening.
I just have to say, I agree 100% with the mayor that the pay amount seemed low, and I'm hoping that you're checking, but maybe the other cities needed to check. Since COVID, everybody seems to be scrambling for employees, that they can't fill positions. And I see gas stations having for clerks paying $15 an hour here in Bay St. Louis. So I'm like thinking, maybe we should revisit it after like everybody is losing employees and can't get enough.
Right.
We want people that we hire not to be going looking in another year or so. We want to keep them. So I think we might want to revisit and
We certainly can.
bump up.
Yeah, we'll
you
look at
know,
it for 24.
To keep them, to make it a desirable place rather than just something that they can get by till they find something better.
And then we won't have, because these positions is raising each $1 more an hour, so we found we're not competitive or we wouldn't be having to do this. So we need to make sure. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not that it's competitive, it's they're moving them off of the general employee scale to the heavy equipment operator scale. As
Okay.
they are doing that type of work instead
Okay.
of just a general grass cutting job.
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you. Also, would you specifically look at the budget and see if there's money to really give code enforcement a bump, since we've had open positions that we can't fill? I feel like a lot of our problems in Diamond Head stem from the lack of consistency in code enforcement, and it's because we've got
I agree.
vacant positions, right?
Right,
So
I agree.
if we had those filled, I think it would solve a lot of our problems.
Right, we can look at both
Across the
full-time,
board.
we can look at increasing a pay as well as looking at making the position a full-time position
That
as
would
well.
be, anything you can do.
That's,
think it's part-time.
you know,
Is that what's wrong? Well, whatever needs to happen budget-wise or, full-time, part-time, whatever. I just think we need to do whatever it takes to really, get that moving.
And that came up at the last budget, and we discussed it needed to be full-time, but it never was done. So we keep talking about it. We need to make it happen, whatever we need to do. All right, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, it's roll call, it's a resolution. City clerk?
Finley,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Resolution 2023-018, motion to adopt Resolution 2023-020, thereby appointing Jesse Harwood to serve as Planning and Zoning Commissioner effective immediately for a 3-year term expiring March of 2026. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilwoman Lisi. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? City Clerk?
Finley,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Consent agenda items 5 through 10. Could I get a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Finley. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to move to action agenda items because the others are going to take a moment to discuss. 14 through 19. Motion to approve the re-subdivision of tax parcel numbers as described in motions 14 through 19. This property will be sold to the state of Mississippi for wetland restoration. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Finley. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Cumberland. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right?
Which properties are these specifically?
So we're doing all of them in one motion?
Right, but just for the people at home, can you explain?
Okay, city manager, can we briefly describe, and there's a lot of properties.
This is everything on the south side, it's really all the marshland, just outside the, any uplands that are out there.
Okay.
And they were just as one big subdivision right now, so this is simply, re-subdividing it, so the uplands, are staying in Purcell's ownership, and then all the marshland and everything will be, sold to the state, and then they can turn around and, use that as marsh reservoir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving along to action agenda item, I'm going to move 2023-216, motion to discussion on ways to improve Article 14, land alteration and disturbances on the filling. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. So moving on to discussion on the fill. There were, and Mr. Jones, thank you on moving on 4. So we had 8 topics that we discussed at the last meeting, and we had 4 that we worked on, and I'm trying to find my sheet, and that we moved forward on approving. We had 4 that we did not, and the typical lot cross-section is just, that's optional, so I concur with you on that. The finished floor elevations, looking at the finished floor elevations and why they're so critical. When you look at the plot plan and you see the numbers and everybody sees it, and there's apps that, and I know you all know, I know Bo knows, there's apps you can use to specifically hit the finished floor elevation and see what it is within a few tenths, which is accurate enough because we're talking feet here when people bring in fill. So to be able to see this house and to see the number on there, 23, then the neighbor on the other side, 24, then the one in the middle, if you see 28, well, then you can visibly see at any moment. And then we have a record of it. We know that at the time the fill was brought in, these 2 homes were at this and that. Then the one in the middle was at a specific elevation. So, again, I'm asking if we can please consider that, and the center line of the street, because that tells the storage that we're gonna have. So when we have the center line of the street, and we know it's at 22, and the houses are 2 feet above, or 1.5 feet, then all that area becomes retainage if something happens and a catastrophic storm comes here, and it stores it. So I was just hoping that we could look at, so it's not a lot of work for y'all, because I don't know how you get done what you do. I'm gonna have to tell you. If y'all are, and for the longest, it was 2 of you, with all these homes being built, doing all the inspections, and we asked the impossible of you, but we did ask to hire somebody many times, but like Councilwoman Lisi said, we're not competitive, so I think that's why it was difficult to get folks in here. But looking at that, if you could reconsider adding that, that would be a positive. or anything we can do to help you get that done. The drainage plan, and I think you're doing this now. Aren't you doing the drainage plans for the lots?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Y'all are already asking for that, so we already have that, so that could be, yes. You want to come up and visit? Mr. Jones?
Well, all those things are within his purview regardless. We're not giving him permission to do it.
Right.
It's up to him whether he
That's
does
right.
it or not.
That's
So-
right.
So we're questioning
No, we're discussing. Mhm.
in a questioning kind of way.
No, we're discussing.
Uh,
So,
Oh, okay. All right. On established subdivisions, that there's a drainage plan, and that I'm telling you, we're like white on rice. We go out there and whether and to see whether it's draining right. We do grade spot elevations. We do slope. We get it done. And so like on the preserve and the Diamond Head Lakes and any other additions, then it's a cakewalk, so to speak. All right. No, but where our problem is, it's infill lots.
right, single family.
That's right. Okay. All right.
Single permits.
That's right. And so, if they are adding field, we are we're there. And let me say this. I still would like some consultation on some of the stuff. And the reason for it is that I was unaware that you could have an app that you could get a finished for elevation. And so I was concerned about, we're going to make somebody get on somebody else's property so they can shoot a grade,
Okay.
at the finished floor. I was concerned about trespassing kind of stuff. We're saying we got to have them. But if there are other ways to get a finished floor without saying you got to trespass, then I really don't have a problem with it. Because it gives us more information.
It helps you.
Yes. Now, however, though, we'll be able to know the adjacent. Okay. Now, adjacent property owners, what their slab elevation is. However, I am concerned that yes, we can know where they are. However, that there's more than one type of foundation you can put on a lot. And so if a person chooses to have a raised house, even though everybody likes slab on grade, to have a raised house, in essence, they could be, higher than even the adjacent property owners, but have no effect upon their drainage because they're raised up. And so, however, though, people don't like, it is true, people don't like if a house is up here and then they can look down in their backyard, kind of stuff.
So what you're saying is the raised homes, which allows the water to flow through, would make your life so much easier.
That's right.
And everybody else sitting here.
Yes.
I concur with that. It would.
And so I don't want us, I just want to get to the point where we are limiting the types of foundations that can be done. All righty. Now, okay, another concern I have is in the wording there, and that I want to give it some thought. And be honest with you, since you had this last time, I haven't had time to think about it.
And we
not that I
totally
won't.
understand.
Okay, but I just want to be real, and so I am concerned that for every infill lot, that we have to have an engineered, stamped plan, drainage plan for it. Just be honest with you, because we're talking about money. And then the other issue is that where the engineer has to set the elevation.
And those have been removed. Because I felt your concerns on that. So the new version doesn't have where the engineer, but the,
Okay, I apologize.
no, that's okay.
I didn't realize that.
The drainage plan did, because somebody needs to be held accountable for that. That takes it off of you.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, I'm
But
sorry.
not the finished floor, because I thought, hey, we can use the app and do this. But the drainage plan, and these are just thoughts, and the wetlands, we can't fill wetlands. So, and I think the individual single-family homes is a big concern, because if you can't fill wetlands and somebody comes in to get a fill permit, how do we know they're not filling wetlands?
Well, I'll actually need some legal thought on that. As I understand it, it's between the property owner and the Corps of Engineers as relates to wetlands. And so I think we could say, if we suspect it, do you, have the determination been made? But I'm not sure if we have the authority to say, you gotta show me proof, because there's no regulation on our books that demand that we have to, somebody has to prove a wetlands issue. There's nothing on the books. Now, except for this, now in the floodplain, that in our floodplain, the flood damage control ordinance, there is a paragraph that says that if it's in the floodplain, then we have the authority to prove, say, you prove to me you're not filling wetlands. And so, but property that's not in wetlands, I'm sort of unsure. I need legal advice as to what authority we could insert upon them.
So you're talking about any property that's not in an AE or
That's right. That's right.
RV or a flood?
Yes. Yeah.
And that may be something that Orion needs to look at.
And so the
Is legal over there?
the engineer's reports don't, drainage plans don't show wetlands at all.
No.
They don't address that at all. So the
Well,
only,
sometimes they do. Sometimes a survey does do it, but just
but
generally.
not typically.
Yeah, not typically.
Okay, so the only way we would know if there were wetlands is if the owner just happened to tell us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, another thing too is that, at least in my office, we have no resource to delineate where any wetlands may be.
Oh, yeah, I
That's
just
why
think
I'm like-
it sounds like we need, a problem we need to address, because if people buy a lot that clearly have wetlands and they know they're gonna have to pay to mitigate that, it would be a lot easier to not do so,
Yeah.
and we don't want that to happen.
And so if someone comes to the office and asks about wetlands, we just said, well, you gotta contact the Corps or contact or provide the services of a person to go out there and make a determination.
I heard that other cities do require that. Do y'all know? Has anyone else? I mean, it may be something to
Every,
see what other
every
people do.
every set of subdivisions plans, you have to put the wetlands.
Yes, yes.
And we've got engineers sitting here, so I'm gonna tell you, I've never done a set of construction plans that I did not have to put the wetlands, because that's like the first thing. Where are the wetlands? Because it's on then.
But for single-family homes, though, that'd be,
I know, this is a very
Yeah.
unusual, and we just want to protect, because the wetlands is our drainage area. That's
Right.
where we store, and this is something, so can we just visit that? This is back up for
Okay,
discussion.
I'm sorry.
No, that's a good, you let us know why. Okay. It's something we need to look at, so I guess legal needs to get,
No, and I was just gonna say, one of the things, Ron and I followed up on this today and, talked about kind of some of his concerns, legal side. This is exactly what we need, kind of some more information from engineers, Orion, and just kind of flush some of this out. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with it.
And so, I do like these specific elements of the field, because when junk is submitted, I mean, just being real, we just go into the list that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And so give it back to them saying like, hey, you don't show that on the plan. So that's good. At least I think so.
I mean, we definitely raised the bar getting the fill ordinance in, and it's put a lot of work on the building department, a lot of additional work, because this is something that's not common in other cities. So just fine tuning it, we had to fine tune it, go through what didn't work, what did work, to get it where it's the best it can be.
And so, well, the city has made progress in this respect.
So can we talk about the fences while you're up here, and we won't have to move on the motion?
Okay, all right.
So the fences, I've had several residents come to me about the fences and and this is something new we're doing. So when you get a fence permit, you have to go 5 foot over from your property line to put your fence up, then 5 foot over on the other side, then 10 from the rear, and then 5 foot from the front of the home, which has always been. The front of the home, the fence has to set back behind the front of the home?
Yes, at least even with the facade
Even
of
with
your
the
house.
facade,
It
okay.
can't be further.
But new is the side yard setting back 5 feet.
Yes.
But the rear yard, moving it back 10 feet when we have rear drainage ditches is something we should have done 50 years ago, and it should have been all the way through, because you cannot access the rear yards.
That,
You can't.
You're-
You
you're
have to
spot
hang
on.
on to the fence post
You're
and
spot
pray you
on.
don't fall in the ditch while you're walking down them.
yes.
The side yard, you know, it's worked very well with swales and neighbors' fences adjoining and all as well. I can see if it's sewer lines under the easement, then definitely you don't need fences over that, because they're gonna have to come in. Water main, they're gonna have to come in. If it's a drainage swale, then more than the two homes share, it's a big drainage ditch, then definitely. But why are we doing it on just, and here's why I'm concerned about this.
Yes, ma'am.
I've seen neighboring county with the subdivision that did this, and I saw how it looked 15 years later.
Yeah.
And it was grass 8 feet high between the two fences, and nobody wanted to, it turned into a,
No man's land, huh?
yes, because it was this one didn't do it, this one, and then it was a collection of, so when it's just side yard swales, do we need to do that?
Well, let me just say this. To make it easier to enforce, if the policy is that you can't be in the easement. In other words, even off the 5 foot. Okay. So that makes it easy to enforce, to say, this is it, instead of having supposition. Okay, the ordinance reads that the users of the drainage and utility easement, the users are the city of Diamond Head and the water and sewer district. There's no other user. In other words, property owner may own the land, but they're not a user of the district. You mean the easements, okay? All right, so the ordinance, and I think it's what's in the thing, the ordinance specifically says
It is.
that if approval is given by the users, that means both of them, then technically we could get a
Abandon the easement.
yes, or either ask the Diamond Head Water and Sewer District to give us a comment of whether it would hinder them in some way to have it enclosed. And if they say it's okay to enclose it, then that's one. In other words, we got one then. Then the
Okay.
other would be the city. The decision makers then, we would have to say, weigh the odds and decide whether it's worth it. Then, if that's the case, then they're saying, well, like on the back, on the rear, you can't do it. Don't even think about it. But then, if we got the water and sewer district and then the city administration agree, then they could enclose that 5 foot easement. However, now in the ordinance, the way it reads, it says if that happens, you shall put a gate, up where that, whoever the user is could gain access. So you just couldn't put a fence across there without a gate.
And it has
It's-
to be big, right? It would have to
Well,
be a
it-
big gate.
Well, in my opinion, it would have to be the full width of the easement. In other words, like, if the easement was 5 foot, we need a 5-foot gate, because, I mean, I don't know what they may need
Right.
that to get back. In other words, instead of like 3-foot gate, I'd say you gotta have a gate to open up the full width of the easement.
And that gate is on the side of the house to get into the backyard.
Yes, that would be,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
And I think that's a very good plan then, because that eliminates looking at a house and there's 10 feet and no fence. And then people aren't going to cut, I have seen it, they're not cutting the grass.
Right.
Especially, they're not, it's just not happening.
And a lot of time, neighbors get together and jointly pay for that back fence, because it's the backyard of one and the backyard of the other, so they want to do a fence and cut the cost that's going to be in the shared thing. So this way, if they know when they're building it, they're going to put that whole easement in, that they'll put in that width of a gate to allow you guys to go through. It's going to go through somebody's backyard, but we don't know which one
Yes.
of the neighbors is going to say,
No.
hey, let's do it like this.
Now, let's see, I believe it is a good policy to have that the users make the decision about it. Because, well, let's say, in 1970, you know, Diamond Head started. And so, well over this is speculation, well over majority of the fences that have been built, like, there was no rules. And so, everywhere you can look around, you can say like, well, my neighbor had it, my neighbor allowed it, why can't I do it? And so, but the problem with that is that there's gonna be times when the city is gonna need to get into an easement, and then we look down the property line, and we just have rows and rows of fences and obstructions, accessory buildings put there. And so then it makes it very difficult for a project to start. And then the city is put back in the position about, well, are we gonna build a fence back? You know, but,
And I think the rear yards, it's an excellent thing, because it's impossible now on the rear. And the sides, if you have the discretion to work with the water sewer district and to make it where they allow neighbors to share a side fence like we've been doing, then that's a positive, because I think having the 10 feet between the side yards, or 5 feet, especially 5, you can't get a riding mower, you know, is going to, no, it's gonna make it, like, especially, and that's a good point. So if you already have an existing fence on the property line and somebody has a new build and they're only 5 feet off, it's kind of pointless, because you're not fitting anything through. So you have the discretion to decide that with the water sewer.
yes, yes. Now, I want to point out another thing. On the subdivisions, are a lot that have 5-foot drainage. In other words, a 5-foot setback, not just a 5-foot drainage utility, but then a 5-foot setback, like Fairway Villas. Oh, okay, that's also a drainage through there. Well, what I'm trying to say is that people have put condensers there, you know, probably even generators, you know. And so, I'm just saying, my department, we need to be a little bit more peculiar about those kind of situations, because say that we need to get back there, and then there's air conditioners or gas tanks not in the ground, or, you know, a generator. Then you got all that. And so I just want to point out that well, but become more aware of that, and so we will be instructing people to need to find another place that in that 5-foot drainage and utility easement to put your condenser, put it on the other side of the house, or in the rear, something like that.
But in areas like Fairwood Village, you'd be able to access from the backside, though. You
Well,
wouldn't
the
have a problem
backside,
there.
yes, in
That
terms of that.
wouldn't be a problem for you, as that
But-
example there, though.
But anyway, I just want to let you know that those are obstructions that can be in drainage and utility easements too.
And the only thing we just don't want to see is grass left unkept, and we're already having compliance issues. You know, being able to get out to see everything, and that's not something that's going to be caught because they're sporadic all over the place.
Yeah.
So if it's doable and y'all can work with property owners sharing the side yard, and it's not a major drainage easement, it's not water sewer, then it's probably best to keep it on the property line like we've been doing on the side yards. Just my thought.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of having,
Me either.
I'm not at all.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so we've moved down to 11-12. We're on 13. I'm going to move to approve a steering committee to work on updating the tree ordinance. The committee of residents will assist with professional experts and shall meet as follows listed. Could I get a second to move? Nobody wants a steering committee?
I think I mean, I just have a problem thinking that it's not really that necessary to have a steering committee for that. Just the way I feel about that is just me. I mean,
Okay.
I think we could probably just adopt from another city or other cities and kind of look at those. That's just my thoughts on that, though.
And it takes a lot of work, so this is an aggressive schedule. You know, the garden club's interested in helping. Arborists in the city are interested in helping. I think having steering committees and get the residents' input says a lot. We want to be able to have their input. We want residents to be able to work on this. We want people to be able to spend time, and not city people that don't have a lot of time, to reach out to governmental entities and research. And to look, so having somebody do the research, the lag work at no cost to the city, to present a document, whether it's used or not, why would you not want that?
Didn't we get a second?
No. Chuck just wanted to, Councilman Clark just wanted to
Well,
talk.
that's fine. Should we move for discussion?
Yeah,
Or-
can we get a,
I'll move for discussion.
and I'll second.
Sorry. So,
Go ahead.
All right. I'm all for citizen input. I'm just, and this is an aggressive timeline, and that's great. John, have you been able to do any work since our last meeting? Have y'all done anything on your end to further?
We have, Derek and I both have looked at several tree ordinances from other cities.
And what have y'all
And
talked about?
we have put some of that together and looking at putting that for the P and Z at the next meeting, but after we receive this, we're held off on that.
Well, let me just-
depending on what you guys want to do.
Let me just ask, because I'm new, I don't know. Okay, so it goes to planning and zoning, y'all submit, say you put together what you think is a good starting place, it goes to P and Z, it's not done, right? People can go to P and Z and give input, and
Right.
P and Z can help craft it, so.
Right, P and Z allows for a public hearing to
Right.
allow residents and
Right.
everyone else to give their 2 cents worth. And then they put together the recommendation, which is brought to you guys for approval or denial.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is, would it save time? So if you did come up with an ordinance, what did you look at? You mentioned Oxford's before. Did you look at that? What are y'all talking about so far?
Yeah, we did look at Oxford. We looked at all the tree ordinances in the coast. I'll be honest with you, our ordinance isn't that bad. Where we are maybe falling down is on the enforcement side, which really is not a fault of the ordinance itself. I mean, obviously, you guys could add some trees to that list to be protected. You can do some things like that. You can add some things that would enhance that punishment phase if there was a lot clearing without a permit type of thing like that. A tree bank, is also a great idea. We have an option where right now in our ordinance where you can work with the city council and the city manager put some trees on city property as a way to mitigate. So obviously there's some things that we can tweak. Typically the way we do it, P&Z, we will get Pat and those guys to kind of give some ideas. Already talked to Bob Barber about this.
Oh, you have, okay.
With Orion about, this in addition to all the other rewrites and things that he's coming up with. Really just again on the enforcement, and the thing I'd really talk to you all about more than anything is let's get some people, as we come up with this next budget session, let's get some people in code enforcement and in the building department that can really be on the ground getting this, being the enforcement tools for us. Because you guys can draft it. You can have a 50-page ordinance that has, just a plethora of enforcement mechanisms, but if you don't have the people on the ground, that's really where you're going to be kind of lacking.
Two of the things that I took away from the planning meeting that we had a month ago were the ability that ordinances are evolving. Once you create an ordinance, it's not done. Okay,
Absolutely.
we're good
Never,
forever.
there's no
You
perfect
can-
ordinance.
Right. That was the quote. There's no perfect ordinance. So, it's possible to, alter those and add, and if something's in there that's not working, take it out, right? So it's evolving. Okay, so that made me feel a little bit better that, you don't have to get it all 100% perfect. You need to make your best effort, of course, but it doesn't have to be, but I think time is just of the essence here. The other thing was they made me very nervous about committees because what are we subject to? Open meetings laws?
So if you guys set up a committee, just make sure you guys understand open meeting rules apply. So, gotta
So,
keep
if
minutes,
all of
gotta
us
have an
went,
agenda.
then somebody's gotta take minutes. Like, what are the
It
rules?
doesn't matter if any of you guys go or not.
Okay.
If you guys set up this committee, if it's a city set up committee. Now, if the garden club or if the Keep Diamond Head Beautiful on their own meet and do it, they're not subject to open meeting rules. They're not created by the city council. If you guys create a committee, whether any of you sit on it or not, that committee's gonna be subject to the open meeting rules.
Okay, and another
Open to the public, have an agenda.
But they're wonderful tools. They are phenomenal to have the residents' input, and I'm all about transparency.
Well, and then the other way you get, and that's what we do every time. We every time we have an ordinance change, whether it's a rewrite, an amendment, a brand new ordinance, which we've done with subject, we are getting public comment. That's why we have our open hearings at P&Z, and we invite the public, and we usually have a full house when we're talking about
Because I want to hear from
ordinances.
I'm not trying to squash
Absolutely
input.
not.
I'm just worried.
That's how you get them here,
At all.
is have through the planning and zoning process.
And then another thing that Oxford did, and I don't mean to keep going back to that, but they were the ones that ran our planning meeting that we just had, so that's why, a lot of this is top of mind. But they have a tree board made up of, probably garden club people and community members who, address like tree issues for all these. So that may be something that we want to think about too. So I'm just wondering, time-wise, is it more expedient to take what they've come up with, send it to P&Z, and then have all the input happen there at the very next P&Z meeting, and then I think would we be a month ahead if we did it that way, theoretically?
I would say you would be, because I was just looking at the dates on that. May the 18th, I want to say, is the Thursday before the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting on the Tuesday. So I would think that agenda would already be set by then.
But I want to hear from all those people.
Especially if you have to do a public advertising.
I'm just worried about time, so those are my thoughts.
And my thoughts on it are, I see a lot of things. Well, first of all, the tree ordinance, Karen Rice was a resident here in Diamond Head for many years, and her and I worked hard on the last tree ordinance. It was a lot of pages. It addressed the drip line, which we don't even address now. So the drip line in many cities have a silt fence that has to be under the drip line of the trees. These are protected. We have where we need to have where protected trees are identified before the first piece of equipment is dropped on a property for clearing. It's pointless to have a tree ordinance and we allow people to clear without a permit. We don't know if they took down trees that are protected or not. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the tree ordinance. These are just a few things that I see.
But again, right now, you're not allowed to clear. So a lot without, your lot permit, to do that. And you have to have your tree survey and do all those types of things. So when those things happen, they're already illegal.
But they're not doing it, so.
But, I mean, there's lots of people speeding, there's lots of
No,
people
I
cutting
Do we
trees,
have
and
a
I'm just,
clearing permit? We don't.
well, you can't just,
No.
yeah, you cannot just clear a lot without yeah. I'll let the guys that deal with it every day tell you.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Carter. Okay. All right, when the planning commission rewrote the tree ordinance again, before then, what was happening was that, yes, you had to get a permit to clear any tree, even if it was a pine tree. It didn't cost you.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Yeah, it didn't cost you anything, but you had to get a permit. And so they want to take down a pine tree. So the reality of it, it was just costing this
Well, why
building
didn't-
department useless time writing a permit so they could cut down a pine tree, and we got no money from
Well,
it.
why didn't we just exempt pine trees?
Hmm?
Why didn't we just exempt pine
Oh,
trees?
Well, what has happened is that if it's not a protected tree, you can go down there and cut anything. You don't need a permit if it's not a protected tree. However, though, what we have to tell them is that there's a residual density now in our tree ordinance. And it's up to 10,000 square feet, you gotta have 10 trees, okay, on your lot. So any species, any type of tree, no matter the caliper, it could be a twig, but you have to save that many trees.
And it doesn't address the location,
No.
because there's one new house that I saw in particular that the developer contractor left the required number of trees in one corner. And they're as big as my finger, like you said, and that was not the intent of.
No, they leave scraggly, ugly trees that people don't even want to. Here's our whole concern is, and I've had to do this for 40 years, you identify before you start the protected trees, and they're flagged and they're marked and they're on the survey. You have the protected trees on the survey from the first day, the first thing you do. The city has it, and if you accidentally damage one of those, like the fill, the fill around protected trees, you've added now that protected trees have to be on there because fill around the roots, compact, it'll kill it. So why are we trying to save a tree and then putting fill around it? I mean, it's pointless.
Yeah.
So having the trees identified, the protected tree, and here's the ultimate goal, to have the protected trees before the bulldozer goes on the property, identified and you know about them. How do we do that?
That's exactly what we did with the Diamond Head Lake subdivision, and the trees were marked, and the contractor that did the tree removal removed every tree on the property.
And that's when we get new trees. I've personally seen a contractor have to buy a city 50
Well, and
trees.
that's what he will have to do. So that's how we're enforcing it. So
Now what about
so we
single
had
lots,
So we
single
had
lots?
we had a tree plan. So we got two different things. We have tree protections with subdivisions addressed there. We also have on a single lot prohibited acts. You cannot clear, cut, or remove all trees regardless of the size or species from a parcel of property. If you do it, you're subject to the penalties of the ordinance, which are the typical misdemeanor penalties. But so that's on your single lots. You can't clear cut the lot without, going to see them. You have to have your residuals. And on subdivisions, you have to have your tree plan, and you have to make sure your contractor that comes in there knows when the tree's marked, you don't cut that and just cut everything.
The guy on
But
the
when,
bulldozer.
Right.
when you do it, that's when on the back end, they will be required to have a certain tree density in that subdivision.
Well, I want to see some really stiff penalties for people that, oh, whoops, the guy on the bulldozer didn't get the memo, and sorry, because we can plant as many trees as we want, but they're not going to be mature for years and years and years. And we don't have any teeth in our penalties right now. If it's just a $250 misdemeanor, I mean.
The penalties that Oxford had, where it was a 3-year moratorium if they clear cut without a permit. I'm not going for the 3 years, but I could say a year, you know, would make any builder be damn sure to tell the bulldozer guy, hey, don't be taking down any marked tree, because if they know they can't do the project for another year, they're gonna make sure everybody's informed.
And if it's monetary, they'll just build it in, you know, if it's just a fine, they're gonna build it in and just consider it the
Excuse my
cost
language.
of doing business. And
So,
that's
so
not-
so
Oxford's
let me
got-
ask about the single-family homes, because I'm not clear on this. The
Okay.
subdivisions, we know on the plans that the protected trees are clearly marked. Somebody comes in, they want to build a single-family home. Do they bring you a plot plan with the protected trees on their property on the plot plan?
No.
There's where we're missing it, because it's the single family that are sporadically all over that the lots are clear-cut completely. And then always you see, it's just typical, there's 5 little scraggly trees in the front, or 10, and they're very, I
Well-
don't even know what they are. They may be gums, or I don't even know, but they're not even identified, and they're left. When we know there was a beautiful tree in the back on the left that would have added, how do we get to that point? Where those trees on the plot plan, protected trees, before a single-family home is allowed to be built, those are marked and given to you and Bo to have.
And then it needs to be more than just the honor system, like we're trusting you to let us know if you've got
Yeah, the
a
honor
live oak.
system,
Right, it's not working, and same thing with the wetlands, you know, we're trusting you to tell us if you've got any protected trees, and also if you've got any wetlands, and, you know, not everybody,
But they're not, well, sorry.
no, please,
Anybody?
no, please.
No, they're not telling us. We have nothing to do with wetlands.
Right.
We shouldn't be involved in it at all, other than, as we know, if there's a,
But it affects us.
it does, but, most of the things that we're gonna have problem with, they're already in the floodplain to begin with. As far as what I know of the ordinance, as far as the tree ordinance goes, the only thing we're really missing is enforcement. It seems like it's tight enough, but you can squeeze it as tight as you want to. If there's no bottom, they just fall right out. So if it's my opinion, steering committees, all that, that's great, but, and I'm not, if somebody wants to do it, that's fine, but if you wanna know how to fix it, we need enforcement. Would you agree with that, Mr. Jones?
Enforcement would be a whole lot better. Yes, sir.
But
Well,
with something to back you up, you know, you can go enforce it, but instead of saying, okay, I'm enforcing that $250 fine, okay, no, you need some,
You need a silt fence under the drip line of those protected trees. Then all eyes are on it, because that's very visible at that point. We don't have that. Remember the construction entrances? We didn't have that.
Got limestone now.
Yeah, and I brought that up.
Yeah, you did.
I did. So, I mean, I just see the tree ordinance needs to be improved. And if it's, I like looking at the coast ordinances, because they already have looked at trees that are native to our area. They've already reviewed, if you use Biloxi, Gulfport, Long Beach, you know, they've all been here a million years. They've got some very good ideas on what,
have
and
y'all
Yeah, I mean,
addressed
when
that? Have you
when we
looked at
came up
those?
with this one, I mean, it was really a survey of all the coast ordinances, and it was, you know, and look,
okay,
again,
that's good.
you know, you try to pick the best parts out of them. You try to
Mm-hmm.
create the perfect ordinance, which doesn't exist, but that's your goal. I mean, that's always your goal.
Mm-hmm.
But again, on the enforcement side, so I think we could tweak this, get some better enforcement, talk about drip line. We could add those things quicker than, I mean, we just tell, I mean, we could probably, those things are in the Oxford ordinance. The enforcement that you're talking about, the drip line that you're talking about.
I
if you
have
wanna
many
add-
other things
If
in
you want to
mind.
add to the protected species, I mean,
Well-
it's not that hard.
Can we, like the garden club, like arborists that live in the city, can they submit, if we're not gonna do the steering committee, can we submit all, you know, email in all the concerns? Because I have a lot more than just I have a lot that I
We-
think the ordinance needs.
Yeah, if we put this on,
Mm-hmm.
we have a 15-day notice requirement for a public hearing, which we would meet that at the next P and Z meeting on the 26th, 3rd. Everybody submit your comments, everybody come, we can invite Bob, flush it all out, and then by the next month,
Mhm.
I'll have you.
First
I'll
council
have-
meeting in June, we can
I'll
vote
have
on
you-
something.
Not by the
Mm-hmm.
first council meeting in June, but by the next P and Z meeting, I'll have a ordinance for them to recommend to you.
let me share a few more thoughts if that's okay.
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay, all righty. When we say enforcement, that involves, saying like on a lot, we said identify all these protected trees, okay, and they identified on their site plan. Okay, all right. Well, to keep a person honest, before we issue the building permit, we should really go out there and
Yes, you
check
should.
to see if that tree is really there.
Well, absolutely, but you need a clone, or you need some more.
Well, that's
Right.
what I said. It takes bodies.
Right, right.
You know, and right now, we're short on bodies.
Right.
That's the only way to do it. You
Like
have
you
to
said.
physically go visit every single, and Public Works can assist in that. They can identify trees.
Possible, yes.
Mhm.
And so,
So Ron, don't we have an arborist that we retain that, and we charge, that fee is paid by the landowner in their plan, and the arborist goes and checks the trees, and, I mean, so we do have a body that we can use that is, what is it,
Yes. Uh,
$100 or
oh,
whatever he charges, we pass
Well,
on to those persons. It's about 100.
Is he on hire to be able to go out and check the lots?
Absolutely.
No, so
just
we
gotta
can
start
hire
we've
him
gotta
to do
start using
that?
them. We gotta start
Well,
using
put
them.
that on
Yeah,
his
but-
list of duties, because that
yeah,
would
but
be
In terms
phenomenal.
of timeliness, that
Mhm.
ain't gonna work. I can tell you right now. Just reality of it.
What, it's not gonna work having him do it?
He's booked. Time.
He's not timely in,
Well, we can find another one.
I mean, I'm not being
No.
disrespectful
No,
now.
no, but-
I'm just saying,
We greatly
But you
appreciate
can't ask people to wait,
that.
I get it.
that he's not timely in responses that he does.
Can we get another one to go do it? Find
Um,
somebody else that's,
We could.
there's a lot of retired folks here in Diamond Head that are ready to help, that are arborists, that could have been arborists.
Yeah.
We have so many potentials in Diamond Head.
Well,
Mhm.
$100 a pop.
So,
Ron, do arborists just grow on trees? I mean, are they out there?
you couldn't resist.
No, but I can name three
Had to
right
say it.
now.
Well,
I can name three,
why
but
don't-
this is the circle
why
of
don't
my
we-
world.
why
And we
don't
have
we-
another one in Diamond Head beside the
So
one that we're
we've
using.
got a provision in here that says, get an arborist. We could
Mhm.
have 4, 5, 6 on our list and say, can you go out? You can't? No, you go out and do it that way.
It's not that, we have 2 protected trees. It shouldn't be that difficult for somebody to go out. Public Works could do it.
well,
Can- can-
hopefully we'll have some more
Can,
protected
can I
trees.
say one more comment about the arborist? And I'm not, and I'm just being honest with you.
Mhm.
I am not being disrespectful in any way of his decision-making. Okay?
Mhm.
And so but I wanna tell you right now
Mhm.
that all the protected tree removals that we have sent for the arborist to review, every one of them he has approved to cut down.
Ooh, okay. That's news to me.
And so I'm not being disrespectful.
That's
I'm just telling
concerning.
you a fact.
Okay.
And so, again, in his wisdom, I'm not judging him his wisdom. I'm just saying what has happened is that he has never denied one being removed.
So, at this point,
Consistent, that's good.
Huh?
He's consistent.
so.
Very good, Councilman Finley. That is a good positive
So-
point.
So if I wanted to buy a house, or if I want to build a house,
Uh-huh.
I need to go look at the lots prior to buying the lot, or have somebody go out there and look at it and find all the protected trees on it, and then say, well, if this is, I can't build my house in that because this tree's there and this tree's there. Is that,
Ideally, people should do that. We know they don't in reality, and that's where we have to kind of, sometimes we have to let people know that these are the things. But if there is a protected tree right smack dab in the middle of your lot, and it's you have to build your house in the middle of the lot.
Do you know
You've
how
got
many
no choice, but we've got a provision where you can then offset it by, there's some other ways you can do it. And
Do
that's
you
how
know
do
how
it.
many subdivisions I have designed around trees? And ask this man sitting here, every commercial development, trees are the first, number one, where the building goes and and it's blanketed across the whole coast. That's the first thing you do.
Well, then we have failed miserably looking at Diamond Head Lakes, because it looks like it's been strip mined.
Well, we didn't fail, but
Somebody,
I
don't-
mean, we didn't cut
well,
the trees down.
we didn't
I
cut
mean,
the trees
But we're,
down, but
we have a plan for
the-
the remediation of it.
Okay.
And so
Oh, there
that's
is a
where we're
plan.
going to, oh yeah, he'll have to have a tree density in that subdivision.
Well, that's good to
Where
hear.
where we had a success, and remember, is the condominiums off Golf Club.
Mm-hmm.
The developer there actually came to us and said, look, if you give me a variance and I can relocate the buildings where they normally wouldn't be, I can save a heck of a lot more oak trees. And so that was an example of
great.
success. So there's a lot of, I mean, we all hear the bad, the horror stories,
Well, we
you
see
know,
that one. I
you
mean,
know.
like,
Nobody calls and says, hey, you know, you guys are doing a good job, but
I'm
we
going to tell you,
get
y'all
it.
are doing a good job.
No.
But I think it's encouraging to me that you guys have at least done some work on this since the last council meeting. So thank you for your leadership. I appreciate I appreciate that. So do you feel like you have enough put together as a starting place for P&Z to send?
If we get more of the comments that the mayor's talking about, the
You can
comments
do
that
that?
you're
Oh, I'm
gonna
talking
send you
about
some.
with
You can do that
the
quickly?
tree folks, have them,
Okay.
look, Pat's not here. I think his son had a concert or something, but Pat will love to hear from y'all. Look, he compiles these things, and his job, he transmits it all to planning and zoning before they even sit at the desk, so. get
And
the
my,
stuff
my,
to us.
and my only concern and why I put the steering committee on there is because I was very disappointed with the tree ordinance, and I'll be honest, I was. We had a fabulous tree ordinance that had serious fines and everything, and then the final draft came back like this. So that's the only reason and I felt like residents are always commenting, they're ready to work and assist, but if we feel that we can update it and get it to a fashion that it's more competitive with the other cities on the coast, more in line with it, then I'm all about.
But they can assist, right, by going to P&Z and sharing, right? Or they can email suggestions.
Go
in,
right to the source, come to me, go to Pat, go to John, go to Ron.
It's probably best to email, because if you
So it's in
don't,
writing,
it gets
yeah.
missed in the
Yeah.
weeds. Okay, so moving along. Thank you, Mr. Jones. We're moving right along here. Moving right along, we have tabled number 20, so we're moving on to the claims payable. Number 21, motion to approve docket of claims, DKT 23067-DKT 230710, in the amount of $123,842.79. Could I get a motion? Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. All in favor? Aye. Claims payable, number 22, motion to approve docket of claims, DKT 230711, in the amount of $182. Can I get a motion? Motion made by Councilman Clark. Can I get a second? Second made by Councilman Finley. All in favor? Aye. No non-agenda public comments. Any need for executive session? Could I get a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Councilman Finley. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. All in favor? Aye.
Sorry, buddy, I was looking.
Yeah, we tabled it before.
2060 Beach Boulevard.